On February 26, 2008, Starbucks locked the doors of every single location across the United States. For 3 full hours, the company paralyzed its own revenue stream. They accepted a $6 million loss in a single afternoon to force every employee into a mandatory espresso retraining session. This chart captures the tension that led to that moment. While automated service speed climbed, their stock price plummeted by 50%. By prioritizing efficiency, they stripped the craft out of the product, and the market reacted to that loss of quality. Howard Schultz was the exact man who ordered this massive corporate shutdown. As the leader of a global corporation, he was gambling that a return to manual craftsmanship would save a brand that was currently in freefall. To understand why a CEO would burn millions of dollars just to teach people how to pull a shot of espresso, you have to see the environment Schultz spent his entire life trying to escape. Schultz grew up in a Brooklyn housing project. His father was a delivery driver who broke his leg on the job. Because he had no insurance or workers' comp, the family's income vanished instantly. This lack of a safety net defined Schultz's early years. He took on dozens of odd jobs to stay in school, eventually selling his own blood to cover the remaining costs of his college tuition. By 1981, his career in sales brought him to the Pacific Northwest, where he encountered a small, local operation called Starbucks. At the time, the company only sold raw materials. They were a merchant for bulk coffee beans, tea leaves, and spices. They didn't actually brew or serve drinks to their customers. Schultz saw a massive opportunity for scale, but the original founders were content. They preferred the predictable life of a niche neighborhood spice shop over the risks of national expansion. Everything changed during a trip to Milan in 1983. Schultz watched how Italians used coffee as a social anchor. People treated the local cafe as a neighborhood hub, lingering over their drinks and interacting with baristas who treated the work as a respected craft. He returned to Seattle and pitched the idea of opening Italian-style cafes. The founders rejected him immediately, operating under the logic that they shouldn't fix a business model that was already profitable. Schultz left to start his own venture, Il Giornale. He faced a 90% rejection rate from investors, but he eventually grew the business enough to return and buy the entire Starbucks brand for $3.8 million in 1987. Schultz immediately implemented an aggressive real estate strategy, placing a Starbucks on every major corner throughout the 1990s. After stepping down as CEO in 2000, growth accelerated. They opened roughly 1,500 new locations yearly, exploding to 15,000 stores globally by 2007. But by treating the business like a high-speed real estate grab, the company began to fail. The stores became sterile, the baristas became button pushers, and the brand lost the specific quality that had made it successful in the first place. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, the market finally punished this lack of focus. Schultz returned as CEO with a mandate to prevent a total collapse. The 3-hour retraining session was just the first move. Schultz followed it by firing 6,700 employees and permanently closing hundreds of underperforming locations to stabilize the company's finances. He also targeted the technology inside the stores. He ordered the removal of the high-speed, automated espresso machines that had allowed the company to prioritize volume over quality. He replaced them with traditional manual machines. This forced baristas to slow down, grind the beans for each cup, and physically monitor the extraction process themselves. Schultz was willing to make his service times slower and more expensive. He recognized that when the service is purely about speed, the product becomes a commodity that can be bought anywhere for less money. The strategy worked. Over the next decade, the company's stock price climbed by 1,600%. Today, Starbucks is a global empire valued at over $100 billion. This recovery suggests that the company's value is tied to the specific atmosphere of the cafe, rather than just the raw volume of coffee sold. Customers were willing to wait longer for a product that felt like it was being crafted specifically for them. Schultz proved that long-term survival in a crowded market requires protecting the tangible details of the product, even if that means occasionally shutting down the entire machine to get the details right.